The Spirit, the living memory of the Church, reminds us that we are born from a gift and that we grow by giving, not by holding on, but by giving of ourselves, Pope Francis told Christians worldwide in his homily from St. Peter's Basilica on Pentecost Sunday. He alerted believers to three enemies that are always lurking at the door of our hearts and prevent us from giving ourselves: narcissism, victimhood and pessimism. He noted that these enemies are particularly evident during the coronavirus pandemic. Advertisement: the Pope alerted believers to three enemies that are always lurking at the door of our hearts and prevent us from giving ourselves: narcissism, victimhood and pessimism. Francis explained that narcissism makes us idolize ourselves, to be concerned only with what is good for us. The narcissist thinks, life is good if I profit from it. He said we see how wrong narcissism is during the pandemic, when there is a temptation to think only of our own needs, to be indifferent to those of others, and not to admit our own frailties and mistakes. He also denounced victimhood, noting that victims complain, "No one understands me, no one helps me, no one loves me, everyone has it in for me," and so, the victim's heart is closed. He denounced victimhood as particularly ugly in the present crisis. Finally, he denounced pessimism, or endlessly complaining that nothing is going well in society, politics, the church. He said a pessimist gets angry with the world, sits back and does nothing. Pessimism is particularly damaging at this time, he said, when the world is making the effort of beginning anew, because pessimism is the tendency to see everything in the worst light and to keep saying that nothing will return as before. Pope Francis: we are experiencing a famine of hope and we need to appreciate the gift of life, the gift that each of us is. Francis said, when someone thinks this way, the one thing that certainly does not return is hope. He added that now, we are experiencing a famine of hope and we need to appreciate the gift of life, the gift that each of us is. Later, speaking from the papal study window in the Apostolic Palace at midday, he greeted hundreds of Romans, wearing masks and respecting social distance in St. Peter's Square, for the first time since the beginning of March. He drew attention to the plight of the indigenous and other poor and vulnerable people in the Amazonian region who have been badly hit by the pandemic. He prayed for them, as well as for all who have suffered from the health crisis worldwide, and he called for a minute of silent prayer for all who have died and for those who gave their lives helping others infected with the virus. He also said, we need the light and the strength of the Holy Spirit today. The Church needs it to walk in harmony and to witness courageously to the gospel.